Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are going over my top 5 rare premium ships list. So, what is a rare premium ship? I'm glad that you asked. These are ships that at one point during their life in this game, they were put on sale and then removed for whatever reason, and these are ships that you cannot just buy anymore. They're gone. You can't go into the armory, into the premium shop, and pick them up. The only way you can potentially have a chance at getting any of these ships is during the Christmas container event at the end of the year. And again, that's, one out of, I think we're up to several hundred ships that you can potentially get in those Christmas containers now. So you gotta get very lucky to pick one of these ships up in that event. Other than that, you can't buy them anymore. So that is a rare ship. And what ships are we considering for this category? Well, I'm only considering ships that are truly rare, or removed, if you will. Ships that you can pick up in some type of temporary event during the year aren't being included. So like the Black Friday ships, those guys won't be included on this list because for the past 3 or 4 years now at this point, every Black Friday those ships do come back up for sale in that event. So we will be excluding those ships. So before we get into it, guys, if you find yourself enjoying this video at any point during, make sure you drop a like and leave a comment down below. This video suggestion was a comment that I saw on the past couple of top 5 videos. If you want to see your comment become a top 5 video, leave it down below. So let's go ahead and get on into it. And a reminder before we do that, this is all 125% my opinion. So now let's go ahead and get into it. Coming in at number 5, we have the Tier 8 Soviet cruiser, the Kutuzov. The Kutuzov was ahead of its time, in my opinion, because what this ship was, and is today if you still do have her in your port, this is a long-range HE spammy cruiser that has a smokescreen. And boy, what is high tier today if not long-range and HE spammy? So the Kutuzov was way ahead of its time, and back when the ship was around, the smoke firing mechanics didn't work like they did today. You could quite comfortably stealth fire from smoke for basically, until your hearts had enough of it. Today, of course, that's very different, and that is one of the reasons why the Kutuzov was probably removed from the shop, because that was her shtick. She could pop smoke, stay in it, and just have a nice little barbecue for the duration of her smokescreen. Now, even with the new smoke firing mechanics today, it's still a very good ship at what she does. In the match in the background, it's a double up tiered game, which that's not fun for any tier 8 cruiser, and the ship does quite well. I mean, she's got Soviet shells, Soviet shell ballistics. You can get her range out to 18 kilometers. 18 kilometers on a tier 8 cruiser, with pretty darn good shells as well. These shells, when I've been playing her for the past, well, I've had her for the, I think like 3 or 4 years now at this point. They are quite comfortable, never had a problem starting fires. Not to mention, too, that it's not just like the ship's good at long range, she's pretty decent at close range, too. If not at an angle, she is capable of dealing with most cruiser caliber guns that you'll encounter. And she still has a Soviet AP to back her up. It's not like her HE is the only thing that she's got here. Of course, she has a Soviet AP, and if you've been on the receiving end of that Soviet AP, you know how much that does suck to have a whole salvo of that shoved into your broadside. Not to mention, she still has things like DFAA and Hydro. I run the Hydro on her because, of course, torpedoes love to be launched at smoke screens. So it's a very easy ship to smoke up, pop the Hydro, and just chill there and farm to your heart's content. On top of that as well, her torpedoes are actually pretty darn useful. Unlike a lot of other Soviet ships that have like 4 or 5 kilometer torpedoes, hers do get out to 8 kilometers, very much like the Smolensk, so they are still quite useful. And if you guys remember when I talked about the Smolensk, I always say, oh, she has useful torpedoes at tier 10 with 8 kilometers. Well, Kutuzov here has them at tier 8 at 8 kilometers. So yeah, good luck pushing this thing. Now, obviously, this ship is very easy to mess up in, because while if you stay angled, you can bounce a fair amount of shells. You show broadside, you will get clapped quite easily. Granted, with the range that the ship has on her guns, you won't really need to put yourself in danger that much. And it's an all-around just a great tier 8 fire starter, an excellent off-flank cruiser. If ever you need something, just go to a flank and burn things down as they try to push up at tier 8. It's one of the better ones for that. So if CBs ever come back to tier 8, this could potentially be one, although she doesn't have a heal, so that's a little bit of a monkey wrench in there as well. But yep, long range HE spam, way ahead of its time, and now it's kind of perfect for the high tier meta of today's World Warships. And they've tried to reintroduce her a couple of times as the Lazao is essentially this ship, but her range is, instead of just having 18-kilometer base range, she has a spotter plane that cools down exceptionally fast. So that's kind of a midpoint between this ship and well, reintroducing it back into the game as is. Alright, going down to number 4, we have a repeat from last week, the Tier 8 Premium American Aircraft Carrier, the Enterprise. The Enterprise, in last week's video, was talking about how it's overhyped, and it really is for what it is today. And I mean, with all the changes that have happened to CVs, all the global nerfs, the Enterprise has gone from being an absolute god tier CV to just being a decent one today, in my opinion. She is still pretty darn decent at what she does, but it's nothing like she used to be. Why is the ship on this list then? Well, because so many players want to pick this thing up. Understandably so, for 2 reasons. 1, her reputation, which again is a bit overhyped in my opinion, and 2, her real-life history. Of course, the real-life Enterprise was a highly decorated ship during the Second World War, and I still don't understand why they didn't preserve her as a museum ship, because, I mean, if you want to save one ship from World War II, it should be the Enterprise, the United States, even though we saved so many other ships from the scrapyard after World War II. But the endgame ship is, again, still a pretty darn good carrier in my mind today, nothing like it used to be. Her torpedo bombers are very good and where you're going to get most of her good consistent damage from. Her dive bombers are nothing like they used to be. It used to be so easy in this ship, especially during the RTS CV days, to just absolutely like one-tap a tier 8 cruiser out of existence with this thing's AP dive bombers. Today, it's like hitting a slot machine. You might get a couple of citadels. You might dunk all the bombs in the water, even though you perfectly lined it up. So many times, from my experience at least, the bombs either go to the bottom left of the reticle or the top right of the reticle, rather than going in the middle. You might have 1 or 2 that do kind of stray that way, and then you'll get a couple of citadels. Again, that's down to some of the changes that have happened in the game, and also just the way with some of the ways that the reticle is calculated, not the reticle, the spread in the reticle is calculated. It's her rocket planes. After the rework, they were still quite good, but then they added in the 5-second firing delay. Granted, if you are good at CVs, that's not really a huge deal, but it does make it harder to hit things like DDs, which are, of course, very maneuverable. But against cruisers and battleships, the rockets are still pretty darn effective because the 5-second delay doesn't matter too much. With those larger ships, and you can still cleave like 7 to 8 to 9 to 10k off of those ships with the Enterprise's rocket planes. So again, all around, a really solid carrier. She comes, well, she used to come available in the summer containers, but they didn't do that last year. So, but again, sending container is the only chance you have of getting the ship nowadays. And I mean, again, for what she is now, just a decent CV. I wouldn't really want to throw several $100s at sending containers trying to get her, but hey, that's what it is. Alright, going on down to number 3, we have the Tier 9 American battleship, the Georgia. Man, oh man, the Georgia. This ship was insanely powerful when they released her. She still is today. She still is an amazing Tier 9 battleship. Armed with 6 457mm guns with the American AP that allows 16-inch guns to hit like 18-inch guns. You can imagine what that's like in 18-inch guns then. Whoa, it's quite good. So, the Georgia, when she was actually originally released, she was the most accurate battleship in the game, and probably one of the fastest nerfs to any premium. She had her accuracy bumped down a couple of notches. Like, no joke, when she was released, she had the most accurate guns in the game. And add to that the fact that you can still slot the American Plotting Room Mod 2 mod onto her that decreases the dispersion by another 11%. They're still quite accurate guns. And the build that I'm running in the background is a hybrid secondary build with the American Plotting Room Mod 2 mod slotted in the back, and it works out quite well for me and this Georgia. So besides having 6 18-inch guns and pretty darn good accuracy, the ship is fully capable of rocking and rolling above 40 knots with the engine boost going, which means you're faster than a lot of destroyers you can see. Why run? DDs, you're just gonna die tired. That's how the Georgia works. Her secondaries, I mean, again, back before the Commander rework, just like the Massachusetts, she had some absolutely laser-accurate secondaries, which means that with that top speed and the secondaries, you used to just murder DDs. You can still do it today, obviously, quite well, once the secondaries have had a chance to spool up their accuracy, but unfortunately, it's not quite as good as she used to be with that. So with her speed and her gun, she's an excellent flanker. If you can just run down a flank and get to the side of the enemy ships, start shoving 18-inch guns into their citadels, great time in the Georgia. Not to mention, too, that, again, a lot of ships you can see, you can simply run them down, and, well, they can't escape your secondaries nonetheless. Her armor is a little lacking. It's weird, because she has 32mm plating, but there's times that I'll get shot by 16-inch guns, and they go right through it. I guess it's some weird geometry with her armor, but hey, for the speed and the firepower that you get on this ship, it's absolutely a fair trade-off. Georgia, one of my favorite ships in the game, an amazing premium, and one that hopefully will be released again in the future, because she's just a good, fun ship. She's not really great for anything too competitive because of how weak her armor is. I mean, of course, you get a really good BB player, I'm sure they can make her work quite fine, but one that I would like to see return in the future, besides, of course, just the Santa containers. Alright, going on down to number 2, we have the Soviet battleship, the Nikolai I. So, the Nikolai I. This is a Tier 4 battleship, Soviet battleship, the Soviet AP goodness. They can actually hit what it's aiming at. That's the trick to the Nikolai. Also, she's very tough, too. Her armor scheme is quite good. Now, the Nikolai can hit what she's aiming at, which is a lot for a Tier 4 battleship to be able to say. She, of course, has 12 guns, as you can see here. And, yeah, I mean, down at Tier 4 with that many guns of that caliber, against all the cruisers that we have at Tier 4 that are made of explodium, yeah, you can see why this ship got pulled. It's just a death strike machine down there. All the Omahas, the Phoenixes. Oh, man, low-tier cruisers just explode quite well. Now, of course, like other Tier 4 battleships, she's slow, the turrets take forever to turn, and in fact, as I'm sure as you'll see in this background footage playing right now, many cases I just turn the whole ship rather than trying to wait for the turrets to traverse. Yeah, she's a bunch of just death strikes away from having a fantastic match, which is just about every match too, considering that Tier 4 games, that's still in the realm of bots. So you can get a fair few amount of bots on the enemy team. In this match in the background right now, I think there's only like 2 or 3 per side, which is pretty low for Tier 4. But yeah, you get a bunch of bots. They like to sell in straight lines. They like to unga bunga straight into you. Great ship for farming those dev strikes and those bots. And it's not unnormal for, in this ship, me to have like 80 to 100 plus thousand damage games at Tier 4. Which, if you play at high tier a bunch, that sounds normal. That is not normal for Tier 4. That's very good by Tier 4 standards. So it's completely understandable why this ship got pulled. Because again, hey, it's like the perfect Seal Club machine. Especially if you, like me, and put Kutuzov on it with a full 21-point commander build. Yeah, that's I'm gonna pay for that later, probably. Alright, going down to numero uno, we have the one, the only, the Julius Caesar. No, I'm not going to try to pronounce her actual Italian name, because every time I do, the comments get mad. It's the Julius Caesar. So, Tier 5 Italian battleship. This thing is not great in any way, shape, or form, like the ships we've looked at, except for the Enterprise, because, again, global nerfs are fun. They've had 1 or 2 factors that just are amazing about them. The Kutuzov, its range, and its shells, the Georgia, its speed, its 18-inch guns, its secondaries, the Nikolai, the accuracy of its guns is way above its tier. The Julius Caesar just has decent everything. Like, seriously, look at the shell dispersion in the background video. It's not that great. It's actually the old German shell dispersion. Like, way back in the day German. Like, not the new German dispersion that is the American battleship dispersion ellipse. Like, the old German battleship dispersion, the one that everyone complained about. It's not that great. Her maneuverability, pretty good, not that great. Her armor, pretty good, not that great. That's the Julius Caesar. She just has decent everything, which at tier 5 is quite good, because most tier 5 battleships give up something for what they have. Either their armor, their speed, the accuracy of their guns, reload time, something. The Julius Caesar doesn't have to give up anything. It just has decent everything. So when you have decent everything at a tier where, again, some tier 5 battleships have to give up a lot just to get decent guns, decent armor, or decent speed, the Julius Caesar just is rocking and rolling around. Maneuverability is really good. I mean, shoot, this is probably one of the more maneuverable tier 5 battleships. She has a very small battleship too, so she's not incredibly tanky. Again, decent at something, but not great at everything. I'm sorry, but yeah. Decent at everything, not great at everything. So you just have a very comfortable little tier 5 battleship here that is really comfy to play at tier 5, and like they tried to do back in the day, could easily be a tier 6 battleship, no doubt in my mind about it. And in fact, they were so determined to reintroduce her as a tier 6 battleship, they did introduce her as a Novorossiysk, which is what happened with the ship after World War II. She was given to the Soviet Union as a war trophy, and then mysteriously sunk not that long after. Yeah, I wonder what happened there. But anyway, yeah, she's a fantastic ship. I was lucky enough to pick her up in the Santa Container event last year, and she's definitely met all of my expectations. Although she's not quite as good as what I had heard, there's definitely a bit of overhyping there with the ship. But again, everything about her is just really solid. It's a really solid battleship overall, which is again better than what most battleships get at tier 5. So guys, that's my top 5 removed or rare premium ships list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What are your top 5 removed or rare premium ships? Let me know down there. And also, again, let me know what you guys would like to see in next week's top 5 video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will be live streaming here tonight on the channel and on Twitch around 5 p.m. U.S. Central Time, to make sure to come out for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.